Before I came in the military, I was a young man. I was 19, and I wanted to play in the NHL. That path kind of ended towards the end of high school, beginning of college, and I saw that path kind of ending. So my dad and I had a talk, and I really wanted to follow my passion towards hockey, but that kind of died out, and I ended up just I was offered a starting goalie position with the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I went out there to the college, and that kind of fell through. I was a great team, but I decided I don't know what to do, so I went in the Air Force instead. And I had ambitions to be in the Air Force for 20 to 30 years. I really loved it. I have a lot of, I think, survivor's guilt because inadvertently in the recruiting ads, they don't tell you, the recruiter won't tell you that you're going to work with the remains of the deceased. They don't tell you that you're going to be seeing very traumatic things, after effects. So I like to say to people, I was the Lord of War. And how is that? Well, if you watch the movie The Lord of War, he ships bombs, beans, and bullets, but he ships guns. That's what I did. I shipped guns, I shipped bombs, I shipped weapons that didn't go to world peace. They went to ending our enemies and bringing our guys home. So I didn't realize I could feel five ways about something until the Air Force. And then when I got closer and closer to doing that and actually putting hands on and loading bombs actually in downrange, like in Qatar, I almost went to Iraq once. When I started doing that and getting closer and seeing the bombers taking off, I had a very different feeling about what I was doing the closer that I got to it. And seeing guys like 400 Marines in a line, and every one of those guys is looking at me saying, man, I wish I had his job. And some of them even look over and say, you chose the right job, man. And it's after a while, it doesn't seem at the moment that that's going to get to you. But when you see them come back and they've lost a couple of guys, you see on AFN, you recognize some guys that you sent out. Um, you start to see the after effects. Driving a Humvee off of a C-17, and there's a giant hole right where the driver was. He's probably not alive anymore. Seeing a box that's in that box is what's left of the guy that they could find from the IED explosion. So it's like bits and pieces. It doesn't take you all at once. It doesn't mess with you at the moment. But for example, if I can put it into context, imagine that I've read this personal story from someone else. Imagine that you're loading a drone, and while you're in the military, you load the drone and it comes back empty and everyone cheers. But you just killed people, and that's the part of the mission. And so later on in your life, you realize what you did, and you're like, you can kind of feel differently about it than when you're around that group. When you're all alone and you're isolated, you tend to think about things a little differently. I have like dissolving discs in my back. I pushed 10,000 pound pallets up ramps for 9 years. I drove a lot of vehicles in a lot of cramped conditions, crawling under helicopters, crawling under tanks, crawling under things, reaching for chains and then connecting the chains and then ratcheting them, and it just took a toll because I was usually in contorted positions. I was loading bags in the lower lobe of a plane. And most of my bosses had hearing aids. They had hearing aids, knee braces, and canes by the time they were about my age in my career field. So uh, when I got out, that plus my fall off the roof in 2018 really kind of did me in. So complete loss of identity. You go from 1 minute to being this guy who walks through airports and people shake his hand and say, "Thank you for your service. Appreciate what you're doing." And I don't think people really realize the loss of that whole prestige. You're traveling to different places. You're, never sure where you're going to be next. It's kind of an exciting life, right? Your friends are in harm's way. That's a little bit exciting, but also scary. You're going to be in harm's way. Um, and it's not a good thing, but it's a fact of it. And so like when you get out, it's like being in prison. You're starting from scratch. I try to tell people this, but I don't think they believe me. Prisoners get 8 months after prison with a dedicated social worker. Veterans get a 2-week PowerPoint. and they are sent off, sometimes with $800 in their pocket, into the world. How can you do that to people? So I just can't stress enough that places like this is the first time since 2015 that I've been treated human. To be honest with you, I was surviving, functionally homeless, um, and I just kept losing things. I lost my merit career in the Air Force. I lost my prestige. I lost my health. I started drinking. I started smoking marijuana to block out I started using substances, and just my health just kind of deteriorated. My mental health wasn't in a good place. My father passed away. I lost 5 relatives and close friends in one 8-month period in 2018. So I just kept getting hit after hit after hit, and that can happen when you don't have the solid base that you're able to build because you sacrifice that to go away. The biggest one was my dad and my relatives telling me I came back changed. They were like, "You're very different," you know. And then they would say things like, you know, they don't know what part of themselves to give. They would say like, "Hey, I think you should go somewhere by yourself for a while, maybe go away for a while and kind of just reflect on some things and go to counseling. Make sure, you know." My dad always stressed to me, he's like, "You need to go to mental health at the VA, and you need to get your mental health together. You got really weird hours." And I didn't realize at the time I was diagnosed later on, even in Mexico, the doctor diagnosed me with insomnia and anxiety and pretty much PTSD. So I didn't realize I had PTSD from childhood that the military made even worse. And those are things I found out through therapy. I got fed up. I was living in the middle of the ghetto in Grand Rapids. I was drinking 5 days a week. My pain in my feet was a max 10 out of 10. I wouldn't wish my pain on the worst person in the world. I wore boots. I wore special socks. The pain was never ending. And a doctor also did an MRI on my back, and he said, "You have a dissolving disc." He said, "This is your dissolving disc. You need to change your diet. You need to lose weight." So I started walking. Then I got 2 ankle injections. I got 2 spinal injections, and I started feeling a little bit better. And I said to myself, "You've got to make a change. You've got to do something." So I went and tried scuba in Utila, Honduras for 20 days. That was the first time that I felt normal walking. I walked. One of the guys on the island who's like he's kind of the wild character on the island. He looked at me. He said, "I'm going to get you a cane, man. I'm going to get you a cane. You need a cane." He was telling me I needed a cane. They needed when I first started diving. The first 20 days I was there. They would help me back on the dive boat and help me off. They would lift me up and bring me to the water, and I would go, and that's how I would get in. I had to have people helping me in and out of the boat. That's how bad my feet were. And all the while, my family is telling me, "Get a job, get a job, get a job." And I'm like, "Do you not realize I'm on VA disability? Like, I don't think you're seeing me." So I had to get away from the negative influences. To stick more to your question, um, it got so bad that I sold all my stuff in June of 2022, went to Latin America for um, 11 months in Mexico, or 6 months in Utila, Honduras on the island, and then doing scuba the whole time. I did 125 dives there because that's how dedicated I was. I was willing to risk the ocean to help my pain. So the aqua therapy there was very important. And then I did 11 months in Mexico just diving there too. And I became a PADI dive master, rescue, nitrox, deep, and adaptive. I started out with open water and advanced. So I've done like 8 scuba schools. A lady on the island of Utila told me about the foreign medical program in Costa Rica. She said they'll pick you up from the airport and everything. And then I started researching here, and I found through the guy on TikTok, John Davis. John Davis talked about MedVets, and I contacted MedVets. I was there for a little bit, and then I came over here, and so I found this place by proxy, by luck. I get mental health 5 days a week. I get body scrubs, professional 6 types of professional massage. I get physical therapy, which includes ultrasound on my feet, which penetrates deep into the muscle. Ionic foot detox baths. Um, I also get really great chiropractic care here. A couple different forms of therapy there. and that's really helped my neck. My neck was not good. I've had times, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but I've had times where my neck was like this, and I was walking around like this for 2 or 3 weeks because I slept on it wrong. I mean, I used to drive a forklift like this. Picture this: I'm driving a forklift, and I'm looking like this. Sorry, I can't do it very well, but I'm doing like this for hours, hours a day, hours a day. I'm doing that with my neck. So the services I get here have been wonderful. We also get a restaurant here which feeds us 5 days a week, twice a day, breakfast and a brunch, lunch, and we get recreational activities. We just had a scuba trip which was phenomenal over in Sosua, and we did 2 tank dive there. Um, we have recreation, bike recreation. We have a buddy check every Wednesday. We have it all. The biggest thing is I did solve some of my problem by temporarily. And right now my pain level is probably a 0 out of 10. Literally, it's a 0 out of 10. I have not been this pain free in 6 years. I'll tell you that right now. Second thing I want to say is that I was drinking instead of taking the VA medicine because I didn't like the idea of pills. So I would use alcohol to take the edge off. That spiraled into harder things. So alcohol spiraled into this and that. And so I solved the problem with my foot pain temporarily before I got here, but I wasn't doing the entire approach, which is what we have here at this clinic. Not feeling seen, not feeling understood, not feeling heard, not feeling like the country even cares. Um, they give you a payment and say, have fun. It's like, and then you try to get appointments at the VA. It's very difficult. VA was like, I had to scream at one of the doctors and say, man, I've been telling you for the past 3 years, I've been telling you that my feet are on fire. And just now you're going to get me orthopedics for my shoes. Like, what are you doing, man? This has been night and day different. Like, I'm mad a little bit that I searched for so long for something like this because the VA should have been doing it. The VA should have been like, hey, we can get you an ultrasound treatment, which might help your nerves in your feet, or we can get you some kind of other treatment because my feet were on fire. Like, imagine putting your feet in a fire and you can't get away from it. You can't sleep. How are you going to sleep? How you going to do anything? How you going to, I tried to go back to work 5 different times. I had a job that was 100,000 plus a year job at Spectrum Communications. I had to quit 2 months in because I couldn't sit down. I couldn't sit down. I'm sitting down for the last half hour talking to you. No pain. I was at Spectrum. I had a great job, and I had my VA disability, and I had to tell them I got to quit. I can't sit down for this long, bro. I wanted to stay there. I couldn't focus on the training. I couldn't think straight. I was on gabapentin, muscle relaxers, naproxen, and drinking at night and going home crying every day. Grown man. Yes. The breakthrough treatment for me was the ultrasound. The ultrasound with physical therapy, they do the ultra. They put gel on your foot, and they do the ultrasound. I have them do it on the cracks in between my feet too, because that's where the nerve twinges are. And they do the ultrasound on my feet, on both sides, and then they do the scraper, and that gets in the muscles and it loosens them up because my nerves and my feet and my muscles don't function correctly anymore. And I'll tell you what, I went 4 days last week without getting that treatment just because I just didn't have them schedule it, and the pain came back, and I was like, man, I've been living through that for the past 6 years. I had another realization, and it made me almost cry because I was like, no, I can't leave this place because I need this treatment. Like, I need that on my feet. If everything else fails, I need that ultrasound treatment on my feet. First noticeable change, I would say I would say control of my emotions and mental. Um, when I got here, I was actually still in pain. I didn't realize it until I got here to Dr. Gary's clinic. I was still in pain. I was using substances that I shouldn't be using, and I was using them for the pain. And I'd say peace of mind. I'd say actually living in the present moment, not worrying about the future, not ruminating about the past, but just being. My therapist told me after 8 months of therapy that I lived a maximum trauma life, and I didn't realize that because I didn't see myself. I think this is the first time in my life that I've ever been treated human. Honestly, I think I loved pain. I loved, hey, this is gonna suck. Let's do it. Hey, but it's like you can only do that for so many years till you're like, you know what, like I'm not doing okay. Like I can take the suck. You know, but I used to take pride in mental abuse, where now I've cut out my abusers from my life. I don't contact my dad because isn't it a little bit of my fault if I'm going to contact my dad and he's going to put me down? If I keep contacting him, it's kind of my fault after a little while. So I really am at a mentally healthy place where I'm able to thrive, really start thriving and really living. Right now, I'm not thinking too far in the future. I'm looking forward to continuing to advance my self care, continue my running routine, and keep that up. I've been on a really great streak the last 3 weeks. Continue the diet that I started, high protein and vegetable and fruit. That's all I really eat, and so I've really got like a paleo thing kind of thing going on. Like tonight, I'm going to get a steak and vegetables. I already know what I'm going to eat, or fish and vegetables. Maybe it's kind of the Mediterranean diet, but I'm looking forward to finding not just finding my tribe like I've done here, but finding more of a purpose to plug into and to use the diving skills that I've gained. Like I spent hours and hours and hours underwater to get there. I don't think people really understand what it takes to become a dive master. You will drown. They will drown you. You will almost drown. And you better have your pants strapped on because you are going to go underwater. You're going to be underwater for 6, 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then you're going to want to dive again on the weekends. That's a great question. The first thing I'd like to say is that you can. My buddy Russ, who's a combat Marine who saw his own buddy blown up right in front of him, he stepped in an IED. And I asked him, I said, why do some veterans just not reach out and not go for their VA benefits? And he goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But I would highly encourage any veteran to just give this a shot. Just give it a try. Come here. If you don't like it, leave. But if you see what we're doing here, it's powerful. It's powerful in not just one way, not in 10 ways, not in 30 ways, in every way. This is a powerful experience for a veteran. What we're doing here, I almost want to say it's world changing, really. I hope that the whole world sees what we're doing here someday, because this is what the VA should have been doing. Well, if I knew about this place, if it was around back then, 6 years, 7 years ago, I would have told him go use the foreign medical program because it's so much better. It doesn't make sense that you're going to go out of the country to get better care, but it does. I would also encourage him to wear a harness while on a roof. Um, and number three, to put the substances down and take up meditation, or really cut back on substances and reach out. Reach out. I would say reach out is the number one. Is that veterans will drown alone. They don't reach out. They don't reach out. I think on some level, a big level, that I've reached the ultimate American dream. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm 37. I got my pension at 32. I'm living here in paradise. I'm taking care of my mental health. I dive whenever I want to. I here connecting with veterans. I don't think there's a better life that I could be living. So um, Freedom to me means that you're kind of able to develop yourself from a healthy standpoint and not worry so much about the past or the future. You're just full of potential, and you're capitalizing on what you have. You can't play every card, you can't be everything in life, but it's the ability to have the freedom and the time. A lot of people have money, a lot of people have time, but not everybody has both. And to me, that's real freedom.